What if I asked you to give me the factorization? It's not really called a prime factorization because now we've got algebra involved, but it's basically the same thing. So the first time we're going to do this the long way, and then from there, hopefully you will have observed and kind of started seeing things a little bit differently. And from there, we'll hopefully be able to develop an even more effective way of doing this. So we start out with 12x squared y. And we would like the factorization of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate the coefficient from the variables. So because this is a multiplication problem right there. So the first factor pair is 12 times x squared y. That's the first factor pair. Right? Because if I multiply these two together, I get that. That's what a factor pair is. Two things you multiply together to get a result. Now, prime only applies to numbers, and so we don't have to worry about that with this. So let's just stick with the numbers. Can I have a factor pair for 12? Factor pair for 12, Caleb? 3 times 4. Anything prime? Tristan? 3. 4 is not prime. I don't know if I really need to call on anybody. 2 times 2. And so we can see that the factorization is going to be 2 times 2 times 3 times something. So now we have to break this down, and it's unbelievably easy. This is a multiplication problem right there, right? X squared y. Right? If I multiply x squared times y, I get x squared y. Y, it's not prime, but is there anything that we can multiply together to get y? No. So that's closed. What about x squared? What do we multiply together to get x squared? Chanel? Very good. We get x times x. And those are now closed. And so now we have everything we need. Put it from smallest to biggest, and you put the variables by themselves in alphabetical order. So we get 2 times 2 times 3 times x times y. My hope is, in 1 second, Tristan, my hope is that that will be the last time you do a factor tree. That's my hope. The factor tree is a training wheels technique. So I've talked to you about this before. You take off the training wheels when you're ready. I think that most of you should be ready. If you're not, you can always use the factor tree. It works every time. Okay, Tristan, what was your question? That's what we're going to talk about right now. So now that we've seen it, and now that we're super bright, we can use our minds creatively. So now we're going to factor 18a squared b to the third. But we're going to do it differently, and I don't want you to do anything. Don't start writing the answer, even if you think you know. Okay? We've got 18a squared b to the third. Now I'm going to ask you to do some creative thinking, using your imagination. I would like you to try and think of a time when you saw a movie. I want you to think of the opening credits and the title screen. When the title of the movie appeared on the screen. Bless you. Have you ever seen a movie where the title of the movie slowly just appeared on the screen? Even if you don't remember, my guess is that you have. Sometimes the title kind of scoots in from the side and then shoots out the other side. Sometimes it drops down and then drops down the bottom. Sometimes it sparkles in. I mean, they got all sorts of special effects that they can use. But the first one that really was used was called the fade in, where all of a sudden it just kind of slowly appeared. And then what happened after that? Slowly disappeared, right? That's called the fade out. So I want to use the fade out and the fade in. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at the number 18. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. Don't do it yet. When I ask you to close your eyes, I want you to put in your mind the number 18. Don't do it yet. And what I want you to do is I want you to force the 18 to fade out, meaning it disappears. And I want in its place to fade in a factor pair for 18. So in other words, I want you in your mind, the 18 is going to slowly disappear, and two numbers multiplied together is going to appear. So I'd like you to close your eyes, and I would like you to make that happen. Go. Okay? Good. Open your eyes. So what factor pair appeared? What appeared, Marcus?
6 times 3.
6 times 3? Anyone have something else appear? Laurel? 2 times 9? Anyone have something else appear? Cheyenne? 1 times 18. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's the one that we don't want. We never want to use the 1 if we're trying to find a factor pair. So now we're going to come back to this question. Now I want you to put the number 30 in your mind. I want you to put we're going to come back to this question in a moment. Let me back up a little bit. We'll come back to this, and I want you to put the number 30 in your mind. And I want you to do the same thing. I want you to fade out, fade in. What appeared in its place? What appeared in its place, U-Dash? 6 times 5. Anyone have something else appear? Jesse? 15 times 2. Anyone else? Amir? 3 times 10. Okay? So now I want you to watch. Did it look like this? So now I just demonstrated what I was hoping you were envisioning in your mind. But here's the thing, and this only works for very bright students like yourselves. We're not done. What's prime and what's not prime? Someone tell me what do we have going on here, Tyler?
The 2 is prime, but the 15 is not prime.
Okay, so now we need to make the 15 fade out and something else fade in. Okay? So now I want you to do it. Go ahead, and you don't have to close your eyes. If you want to, go ahead. Make the 15 fade out and something else fade in. What faded in its place, Kaylee? Now everyone look up here. Did it look like this? Okay, so what I'm asking you to do is use your mind creatively. And so now, So now what we can do is instead of doing the factor tree, we just did it mentally. So now let me go back to the original. So now we've got 18, a squared b to the third. And you guys told me before that you faded it out, faded in. You had a couple different answers. I don't care what you used. So some of you said 3 times 6, and some of you said 2 times 9. Stick with it. Okay? I'm going to use 2 times 9. So right now, in my mind, I've got this. Excuse me. In my mind, the 18 faded out, and in its place appeared 2 times 9. One of those numbers is going to stay in my mind, and the other one's going to fade out and get replaced. What's going to fade out? What's going to fade out, Alex? The 9 is going to fade out, and what's going to replace it? Say it again. 3 times 3. Okay. So now the 2 times 9 is going to, the 9 is going to fade out, and it's going to get replaced by 3 times 3. I didn't really leave myself enough room, but hopefully I can make it happen. So that fades out and gets replaced by a 3 times 3. And so I just did the factor tree using creative thinking. So Tristan asked earlier, can we just skip over all of this? So what's the answer to the question, Tristan?
Yes.
Yeah. Not only can you skip over all of this, you can skip over all of this using your mind creatively. So we took care of the number. Now the letters. How many A's am I going to write out? Let's see who can figure that out. How many A's, Marcus? 2 of them. How many b's am I going to write out? Yadesh? 3 of them. So factoring this expression is going to be 2 times 3 times 3 times A times A times B times B times B.